Hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today we're talking winter bass fishing. We're talking where bass go in the winter and how to catch them. This is an amazing time to be on the water. Wintertime gives you an opportunity to be out while it's peaceful, while nobody else is around, and you can catch giant bass. Some of the biggest bass every year are caught in the heart of winter, specifically right now. About the next week and a half, 2 weeks, some of my biggest bass get caught. I can't tell you what it is about that early to mid-December window, but I'm telling you, this is a phenomenal time to be on the water. Now, before we get too far down the line, don't worry, the buyer's guides are not over. I know Tim just did a top 5 baits for December for you. Today we're talking about where bass go and how to catch them. I think we've got a fishing video following this just to take a break, to let you guys have a breather and to focus on winter bass fishing because that's important. But right after that, we're headed back into the buyer's guides, but on our normal Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. They won't be going 7 days a week anymore, but we've still got a bunch of buyer's guides left to go. Now, let's focus in on winter fishing because this, like I said, is prime time to be out there. What I want to do is I want to talk to you about where they are in ponds, where they are in natural lakes, and highland and lowland reservoirs. I'm going to talk first to the pond guy because sometimes you guys get left out. So I want to address that first. But no matter where you fish, I am going to do everything I can to dial this in for you to make it easier for you to catch bass in the winter. Because here's the biggest thing for everybody, no matter where you fish. Winter fish are generally more lethargic. They are very intentional about the places that they use. So once you locate them, unless there's a major shift in temperature, unless it gets really warm for an extended period of time, or you get a giant flood of water that brings your lake up 5 or 10 feet, as long as those things don't happen, as long as it just stays relatively similar, nice and cold, going through winter, if you find them, you have found them for the whole winter, and you can continue to not only catch fish, but to continue to catch giant fish all winter long. And that's one of the key things that makes it worth it to me to be out fishing when it's cold. I mean, I'm not born to be freezing every day, but I'm not a sucker. If there's giant fish out there waiting to be caught, I'm there. And if I can figure them out once and catch them for a couple of months, that's amazing. So pond guys, if you are in a pond that is generally shallower, like if you refer to your pond as a shallow pond with not a lot of cover, it's so easy. Here's the deal. Now, it's not easy if you don't know where to look. It seems completely overwhelming. In your fishery, if there is a dam, the deepest water is in front of the dam. The fish are sitting right there. They're in the deepest water. Don't worry about the rest of the pond. That's where they are. If this is a featureless pond, they're going to be in the deepest water, period. Now, if there's some laydowns, something like that, that reach out to deep water, they might be at the ends of those laydowns. Or if somebody's throwing a trash can in there in 12 feet of water, they might be sitting on that. But if your pond is shallow, they are sitting at the absolute lowest point of the pond, either dead center if there's no dam, or right in front of the dam if there is a dam. And they don't have to be up against cover. They will sit right down on the bottom, right in the deepest part. We call it sitting in the hollows. That's the way I've always heard it described. Like, see this cove I'm in? The hollow would be the lowest dead center point of that cove. They'll be sitting right there. They don't have to be up here on any piece of cover. So they'll be right down in the mud, belly on the bottom. Now, if there's rock, they will be on that rock. But if there's not, they're sitting right at that lowest point, and they're very easy to target. You just need to fish slowly. Now, for the guy that is in a natural lake, essentially that is just a giant pond. Same thing is true. The fish tend to sit in the hollows. If there are areas where you know, big points run out, they'll be on the ends of those points where they break to deep water. If you've got a transition from mud bank to rock bank, they'll be on that transition. But if there's not a lot of cover, if there's not key obvious places for them, they will sit in the hollows. They will pull out to the deepest water and they will sit dead center of the deepest water. If there's hard bottom available, if there's rocky bottom, they'll be on the hard bottom. But if that's not available, they'll be sitting right on the mud, right in the middle of the hollow. It really is that simple. Now, for the guys fishing highland and lowland reservoirs, highland reservoirs being more of those canyon style reservoirs. Typically, if you don't know the difference, if you consider your lake, if your lake has a small dam with long arms that have lots of little coves off of them, those tend to be highland reservoirs. If you've got a large dam or multiple dams holding back generally shallow water, lots of humps, maybe a few big bays, that's typically a lowland reservoir. So the guy in a highland reservoir, your fish for the most part have pulled out. You're going to be looking for them on the ends of long points. You're going to be looking for them where creek channels come in against bluff walls, right at that transition. So a lot of highland reservoirs will have miles and miles and miles of bluff wall. Not all bluff wall is created equal. Anywhere where the creek channel comes in against the wall, that transition is key. They love those areas. And then probably the biggest is the pinch points. What I mean by pinch points is where two creek arms come together or major coves come together, river arms, where that lake narrows down and things are coming together. Those key corners where the lake is now the narrowest, they will sit on those corners at those pinch points. And that is a critical location. That works everywhere. And again, you're going to want to run some of these spots. If you're on a boat and you can cover water, hit a handful of these spots. Once you get bit, pay attention to every bite you get this time of year. Every single bite. Because it's giving you information, it's helping you build a pattern, and most importantly, like I said in the beginning, these fish are not going anywhere. So every bite is key information because it can unlock something that you can do day after day after day after day and just have a blast. Lowland reservoir, guys, it's really very similar, but you have a lot more offshore structure. So fish are going to be sitting on the sides of humps. They'll be sitting on the ends of long tapering points, and then again, pinch points. The key with those locations is that these fish love deep water access. So the point itself may be a very long, slow tapering point, and it takes 500 yards to get out to 30 feet of water. It's okay that that's shallow as long as the side breaks to deep water. They'll either sit at the very end, right where it rolls, they'll sit there, or they'll sit right up near shore where that long tapering point transitions onto a normal shoreline. They'll sit kind of right there in that corner pocket. But both of those locations, up there tight and way out there at the end, are locations where they can sit deep and be comfortable. But if they really want to feed, they can slide up just a tiny ways, feed, and then slip back off into deep water. There's a lot of safety there. There's a lot of comfort there. That deep water access is key for these fish's comfort during the winter. But again, guys, it really is that easy. Whether you're a pond guy, natural lake, reservoir, it doesn't matter. If you key in on those likely locations, pick it apart, and pay attention to every single bite, it will make a world of difference for you, and you can catch fish all winter long until we begin that early pre-spawn transition. But that's a long ways away. Now, as far as baits go, how to catch these fish, Tim actually did a phenomenal video a couple of days ago, top 5 baits for December. I'm literally going to take that exact list of baits and copy it into today's video description. It's that simple. I mean, he nailed down the baits, but I do want to, you can go watch that video. I'll link that video in the description as well. But I do want to talk about one thing, and that is that triggering a feed response. You know, he talked about fooling fish, i.e. using a natural bait, going very slow on the bottom, and fooling a fish into coming along, looking at it, and wanting to eat it. Jigs, Ned rigs, things like that. They get those fish fooled. Then you've got big baits. Again, it's that same concept. It's just doing it at the other end of the spectrum. It's such a big, such a slow moving meal that the fish have time to inspect it and they decide, yeah, that's worth it. And they eat that big meal. But somewhere in the middle is baits that draw a reaction strike. Baits that get fish to completely react, lash out, it triggers aggression, and they feed. It's not about waiting on a fish to want to eat or fooling a fish into wanting to eat. It's about causing a fish at a core level to respond and attack. And that does not require warm water. That does not require them to be in a good mood. It doesn't require them to be hungry. It's just a feed response. So very specific crankbaits, A-rigs, jerk baits, those are baits that trigger a core feed response in a bass. And I encourage you to spend the bulk of your time throwing those sorts of baits because it works. It catches giants. It's fun. There's not a whole lot of fun slow dragging a worm on the bottom when it's 18 degrees outside. But there's a lot of fun chucking and winding, ripping, stopping, stop and go, burn, 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 pause, burn, 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 pause, and getting fish to just all out lash out on a bait. That's fun, even in cold water. So again, in the video description, I'm gonna take that set of baits Tim just talked about. It's got our exact sizes, the specific colors that we trust, the key baits completely laid out for you, as well as some budget-friendly gear to throw those things. But that will help you because this time of year, you don't get tons of bites typically. You're looking for the right bites. You're looking for giant fish. But the discouraging part is if you go out there without a clue, you don't necessarily get enough bites to be sure you're doing the right thing right off the bat. So we're giving you our exact baits and colors, details of where we fish. That way you can go out with our confidence, do those things, and then the second you get that first bite, you've got all the confidence in the world because you know this is working exactly like we talked about it working. You can do this. Winter's an amazing time to be on the water. I hope you guys get out there and take advantage of this. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.